Hello and welcome to Film Friday number 16 for May 14th, 2021. My name is Darlene Tate. Following our local film news, we will be chatting with Joyce Kline, who along with being an award-winning production designer and filmmaker is the host of Cinevic's new Push In podcast. In local film news, things remain quiet on the local studio production front. Right now in the South Island region, Rescued by Ruby is getting ready to go to camera, and north of us in Parksville, the popular Hallmark series Chesapeake Shores is well into filming its 5th season. There is a feature film production coming to town at the end of this month, but details are still top secret. We'll announce when we can, so stay tuned. In local indie news, the big event going on right now is the Cinevic Short Circuit Film Festival, featuring 50 films from around the Pacific Rim and including a selection of homegrown island films and filmmaker Q&As. The festival runs the entire month of May, and we will provide links to purchase tickets. An integral part of the Short Circuit is an event called CineSpark, where 5 local filmmaking teams whose screenplays emerged in a top 5 competition will pitch for a production prize valued at $17,500 that will help them get their films made. That event takes place Wednesday, May 19th, live on YouTube. Links to these events will be provided as usual. And a little north of us, the Cine Central Short Film Grant has shortlisted their top 10, and these teams will pitch for a $2,000 film grant to aid them in making their films. The pitches will happen live between May 17th and 23rd. Again, a link for more details is provided. And the Comox Valley International Screenwriting Festival, which just wrapped up, announced their winners. The winner of the International Short Screenplay was Lab Partners by Tommy Britt of Virginia. The BC short script winner was entitled Jane by Giovanna Burke of Vancouver. Micro short winner was Perfect Appetite by Sean Clark of Nanaimo. And the feature script winner was Call Me Thor by Jamie Campbell of Kansas City. A full list of others who placed in this inaugural festival can be found at the link provided. And another informative event from the Whistler Film Festival, what the future holds for film festivals in a post-pandemic landscape. The Whistler Film Festival, in partnership with Telefilm Canada, the Canada Council for the Arts, and Nordis City have been researching the role of film festivals in the filmmaker distribution ecosystem, along with shifting audiences and technologies. A very valuable session to tune into for all filmmakers. Links provided. On the film education front, the motion picture industry orientation online class has been scheduled. Find out about the players and behind the scene workings of the film industry in this union-required introductory course. Learn who's who on set, develop your set etiquette and the established protocols of set safety. Explore the various jobs in the business and the realities of working in film. You will leave with the tools needed to decide if film is for you. And now we get to chat with my very good friend, the amazing Joyce Kline. Joyce, welcome to Film Friday. I have wanted you on the show for a long time. I'm thrilled to have you here, so welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm a huge, huge fan of your show.
Joyce, well, you also know I'm a huge fan of yours and pretty much everything you do. Every time I'm on set with you, you and I first met doing The Cameraman in 2016. And that was where I first became exposed to the genius that is Joyce Kline. So
it's a mutual admiration society.
So we're going to get into some of those things in a minute, but I want to start with the latest initiative out there from Cinevic, who have created a podcast of which you are the host. And I'd like you to tell us a little bit about what's the name of it and what is the focus of Cinevic's new podcast.
The podcast is called Push In, a film term, of course, for the camera moving in closer to the subject. And our focus is to, of course, promote Cinevic's activities and inform the community of all the different things that Cinevic does. And they are multitudinous and amazing. But also to promote, we have an opportunity, especially with the uh, um, Short Circuit Pacific Rim Film Festival that's on now, with events like that that are international, we have a chance to also promote Cinevic's activities and its members and the amazing filmmaking community in Victoria. We can promote that internationally. So, and also to connect globally, it's a global world, and podcasts go everywhere.
One thing I think Cinevic has done an exceptional job of is bonding together our indie film community here on the South Island.
I totally agree. I'll never forget the first time I walked into Cinevic's office, and it was I guess, a mixer of some sort, and I knew no one, and everybody talked to me. Everybody was friendly. People who were like idols just chatted to me. The support is amazing, and quite unique. And I think that's why Victoria was written up as one of the 8 cities that are best for independent filmmakers, relatively recently in a U.S. Industry publication.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and you're right. I mean, lots of us call it our film family.
Now, I want to get back to the podcast a little bit. I think a lot of people watching this know that I'm currently the president of Cinevic. However, I had very little to do with the whole podcast initiative, which was really led largely, I think, initially introduced by Grady, and who is just so passionate about this. And from there, the team assembled, and David Geis, the executive director, was a huge supporter of the idea, and Paul Ruta. And that team came together, and I know they put a call out several months ago looking for people who might be interested in hosting. And I know they got a lot of submissions, and I did actually get to hear some of them, but that committee sat in a room, listened, discussed back and forth, and they made their selection. So when they told me, we've made our decision and Joyce Kline will be the host of the new podcast, I couldn't have been more delighted. Tell me what, from your side of things, what was it like for you to go through that process? You made a decision. I think I'm going to submit for this. Then what?
Well, I actually went, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want to do. But I thought, obviously, they're going to be very far better trained voiceover artists and so on who would apply. But I have to say that there was a part of me that went, I've got this. This is what I've been dying to do, because I have acted in a couple radio plays at UVic back in the day. And centuries ago, I did some radio essays for CBC when I was living in the North. That was like a million years ago, another life. But I've always loved radio. I'm listening to podcasts all the time, and I just feel like it's such an important direction for Cinevic, because it extends our reach affordably and so effectively. It just makes perfect sense, and really wanted to do it.
Well,
I was surprised when they did pick me, though, I have to say.
Were you really?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I wasn't at all. I mean, there was some amazing submissions, and it's a great voice is nice, but it really does need to be paired with someone whose sensibilities also line up with what the organization's up to or what the podcast is all about. So I think it was a genius decision, in my humble opinion.
Thanks. It's great when when I'm interviewing someone and there's a little hook, some experience that I can bring to it to ask questions about specifics.
Now you have released the first one, and I think what we will do here, Joyce, is we'll pause for a moment, and I'm just going to put in kind of the trailer with
Inspiration, dedication, perspiration, determination. It's not easy to be an indie filmmaker. Cinevic's Society of Independent Filmmakers wants to take you behind the scenes through short but juicy interviews with filmmakers featured in our festivals and events. Welcome to Push In, the Cinevic podcast. I'm your host, Joyce Kline, coming to you from the unceded territory of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, otherwise known as beautiful Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Cinevic supports and encourages independent filmmakers, and what better way to do that than to introduce them to you, the listener. Each episode, you'll hear from a different filmmaker, tips, trials, and tribulations, triumphs, followed by an itsy-bitsy bit of what I like to call shameless self-promotion, so you'll know where to follow them and see their films. I promise you episodes won't be longer than 10 minutes, and we hope each one will leave you wanting more. So stay tuned for episode 1, our background episode, when I'll be interviewing Cinevic director David Geis about our upcoming Short Circuit Pacific Rim Film Festival, featuring 50 great short films from over 25 Pacific Rim nations. And just for fun, I'll also ask filmmaker and former Cinevic director-programmer Brian Skinner to share some tips on how not to get your film into festivals. But for now, it's a wrap. You can find out more about Cinevic at cinevic.ca.
Now, Joyce, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the plan for the release of these podcasts. Are they to be a monthly, a bi-monthly? Is there a schedule at hand, or how do you plan on releasing them?
Well, right now, we're trying to get as many out as we can of the interviews with the filmmakers who are in the Short Circuit Pacific Rim Film Festival. After that, we won't be, cramming them in as fast as we are trying to do now. So we've got a few recorded that are in the can. We're a little bit ahead, but we're panting to get the rest of them done in time for the festival before the festival ends.
Okay. Now, tell me a little bit about how one of these podcasts come about, and I ask that because I know what can be involved in terms of research and technical side and that. So is this Joyce Kline, pushing the button on her computer and doing this? Or tell me a little bit about I want people to appreciate the work that goes into these podcasts. So tell us a little bit about the team involved in this.
Oh my heavens, I have the most amazing team. They have my back and they have the patience of saints. So Grady Lawler was instrumental in setting everything up because he is a podcaster, among his other many talents. And he, together we worked out the technical, what mic are we going to use? We had to figure out the platform. There was a huge amount of logistics in how we were going to set up the podcast. I do Paul Ruta contacts the artists after we decided on the artists, and he organizes the interview times because, of course, we're dealing with incredible time differences across the Pacific.
Right.
He sets all that up. We have a great, we're using Squadcast, which works really brilliantly. It's kind of like Zoom, so that the interviewee just has to click on. There's an audio component so that we can talk to each other, interviewer, interviewee, comfortably, but it only records audio, but it records great audio.
Wonderful.
Which eliminates the need for, mics and so on in parts of the world where that might not be easy to come by. And Paul takes care of the technical end. He sits in on all of the sessions, which is great, just to make sure that, we are recording, things like that. And then saintly Michael Corrigan edits out everything that I say that's stupid and makes me look much smarter than I actually am.
That's right. That's a great team, Joyce.
It is
So,
a great team.
well, I've only listened. I've obviously listened to the trailer because that was released, and then I popped in and listened to your first segment, and the quality shows. So the work that that team has put into producing these podcasts is very evident. It was a treat. And this one with Brian Skinner's take, and Brian, for I think a lot of people in our film, well, our film community knows Brian, but Brian Skinner was the past executive director of Cinevic, a very well-known, very talented filmmaker here locally. And it was great to launch this with the kind of humor that Brian brought to this first segment. It was fabulous. So,
Oh, he was hilarious. He was hilarious.
sorry, it was such a great tie-in to his last film, Open for Submissions. I mean, just the whole thing seemed to kind of almost be planned. It was such a seamless thing, from his storytelling of the film festivals to his comments on your podcast. I thought it was great.
Well, I have a low boredom threshold. So I really feel like every episode should either have some kind of interesting anecdotes or some takeaway useful information or something.
Mhm.
And we needed to have an establishing shot for our first episode. And I just didn't want it to be, and we do this, and then we do that. And then, so we decided we would spice it up a little bit.
Well, you did a great job. So for everybody watching, the link will be there. It'll be input in our usual format. And I highly encourage people to get onto this first podcast, give it a listen. It'll give you a sense of what's to come and the whole production value, Joyce's style, the way this is all going to go. Please give it a listen. It is well worth your time. And how long is the first segment?
All of our segments will be under 10 minutes. And I think we were just about at the limit of that.
Okay.
What we may use some of the outtakes later, because we get such amazing material. I mean, our second episode with Marie Hamora, I could have gone on for 10 hours.
Yeah, great. Okay, so just to close off this piece on the Cinevic podcast Push In, I just again want to give a shout out to your team. So David Geis, as the executive director, has also been an instrumental part of this, but your production team is Grady Lawler,
Yep.
Michael Corrigan, and Paul Ruta, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then obviously the star of the show, Joyce Kline. Okay, so God, you know, you and I could talk for hours, and it's going to be a real trip for me to try and edit this into something a little bit more manageable. However, I want to make sure that we talk at least briefly about your recent film, which I know has not been released. It's in post-production, but knowing you as a production designer and writer, and then all of a sudden you wrote a script, you made a film right in the midst of COVID. And I mean, you are one of the bravest people I know. So tell us about your short film and when it's going to come out.
Well, fools rush in, as they say. The film is called Canceled Stamp. It's set in the 1920s. I love period stuff, and particularly the 1920s. And the log line is, when sex comes between aging, conjoined twins, each sister must make her own life and death decision.
Well, I can certainly tell you that from the audience perspective, nobody's ever seen a film like this before. This is entirely different and fresh.
Darlene, if you can't do something wacky in an indie film, then where are you going to do it?
Okay, so when do you expect to be able to release this, and is it destined for the festival circuit?
It's destined for the festival circuit, and probably it will probably be next year, because so many of the deadlines have already passed or are prohibitively expensive now. So yeah.
Right. Okay, now you were one of the first ones out of the gate with an indie film production at the height of COVID. So, and having been somebody who was fortunate enough to spend a little bit of time on your set, I was blown away by the level of rigor brought to the COVID protocol. So tell us a little bit about your experience as a filmmaker and how you did this during times of COVID.
It was really tricky because we were one of the first. We had, we planned everything, and I had anticipated I would be working on 3 other films before that, and I was going to watch how these directors did it. And then everybody else kind of fell by the wayside. So we just went ahead.
Yeah.
It was challenging because we had 2 sex scenes. So we had an intimacy coordinators, of course, as well as a fight scene. We had an audience. Luckily, our conjoined twins have a fading audience, so it was easy to socially distance the people in the audience.
Right.
But the flip side of the challenges and the difficulties was that we were able to have an amazing location and production designer's dream. We got to build our own set at Langham Court Theater. Mm-hmm. And I had written the piece to have only 2 locations because as a production designer, I hate having to fill a whole bunch of locations. So we have the shabby, down on its heels 1920s hotel room, and we have the vaudeville stage. So we were able to build the hotel room behind the curtain and then use the actual stage. I made footlights, and then we used the actual stage. It was beautiful.
And who handled all your COVID protocols for you?
The amazing Libby Call, who has gone on to do this for several films since, and she was fantastic.
Well, she was very rigorous. You
Yes.
could not, if you forgot for a moment, she was right there to remind you about
cracking the whip,
which is exactly what you want. So congratulations on producing a COVID safe film, and we're all so excited. So it's called Cancel Stampin', and quickly, what does that mean?
It's 1920s slang for a woman nobody would be interested in.
Now, Joyce, I know a lot of people watching this are going to be intrigued. I mean, you're up to so many interesting things. So how do people follow you and go like, what is Joyce Kline up to these days? Are you active on any of the social media platforms or one over another? Where's the best place for people to see what you're up to?
I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, which just shows how out of it I am. And I am on Twitter, but I'm not great about tweeting. Okay. But I promise I will do better on my social media.
So Facebook is kind of your main venue then?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So for people who want to stay current with what Joyce Kline is up to, I would make 2 recommendations. Follow Joyce on Facebook and also follow Cinevic. Cinevic has a page, and if you follow, you will get notices when Joyce and Cinevic's latest podcast gets released. So I encourage you all to stay tuned. So Joyce, thank you so much. It's never as good just seeing you on screen as it is sitting and having a bite to eat or a glass of wine, but we'll do that soon. Maybe things will calm down a little bit before too long.
I know. Maybe it's the wine that's missing too.
I think, yeah. Oh, the wine. Yes. Okay, let's go there. I'm in. All right, Joyce, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time. It's always great to connect and reacquaint myself with the wonderful Joyce Kline.
Well, thank you, Darlene, and thanks for helping us promote Push In, because it's so important. And if we have more people following and our podcast, that helps. There's 2 million podcasts out there now, and we want ours to be up there.
Yeah, good, great. Well, I know if the rest of these segments are as entertaining as that first one was, then you'll get there. You'll be one of the top ones in no time, I predict. Okay, Joyce, I'm going to let you go. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Okay. And that's it for Film Friday number 16 for May 14th, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this widely, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.